Hey everyone, it's Mike here again. Just thought I'd put up a small video on me stripping down the standard KE70 diff. So here it is sitting on my welding table at the moment. The plan is to strip this down so it's just the bare housing. Then I can look to make a bit of a jig up to mount it to, so I can cut the mounts off. And after I've prepared the F-series diff housing, I can fit that to the jig after that's been shortened and whatnot, and then weld these mounts onto it so it'll fit the KE70. So stay tuned. axle out. done in the past is use the brake drum as a slide hammer. So, let's see if we can get this to work. Put it on backwards. The only problem is this whole thing's going to move. Just like that, easy. So there's a small adjuster inside here. As the brake shoes wear, with each actuation of the brake pedal, the adjuster moves out and clicks and locks, and the locking mechanism is on a small spring plate. So what I'm doing is I'm removing that lock and then operating the adjuster in the reverse direction. So that'll have the effect of collapsing the brake shoes and allowing me to get the brake drum off. There's also these small spring clips and shafts which retain the brake shoes. Let's see if I can get them out. So that pin there, not sure if you can see, that pin there slides through from the back of the backing plate, and it slips through this plate through the hole there, through the center section, and then twists to lock. So all I've done is collapse the spring plate and allowed that pin to come out. Here's the adjuster I was talking about. So as you can see, this adjuster in here, as the brakes wear, it rotates, and this spring plate here locks it and prevents it rotating the other way. So what you do is you relieve that by pulling this spring plate out. It's a little bit hard to see, but you pull this spring plate out and it means that the adjuster can now reverse rotate, and it has the effect of collapsing the threads inside this portion here, but it has the effect of collapsing the brake shoes in. Alright, I think next is the diff head. Alright, this should be as easy as removing the securing bolts, nuts at least, breaking the seal and pulling this straight out. So we'll see how we go. Alright, moment of truth. We'll give these a few taps, see if we can loosen it up. Years of gunk and oil and dry dirt and all sorts built up. Oh, there you go. Alright. Awesome. Worked out just as planned. Okay, so I just thought I'd show you a quick comparison between the diff heads. On the left here is the KE70 diff head, and on the right is the F series diff head. The KE70 diff head's relatively small, with a small crown wheel, and it's also got an open diff with the spider gears. The F series diff came as an open diff as well, but the cool thing about these is that you can use Altezza RS200Z diff head gear inside it. So what I'm going to be using is a Torsen LSD picked out of an A01B Altezza diff, and basically making a bit of a Frankenstein rear end. So usually these diff heads require shims on the left and the right of the side bearings. So if you put a thick shim on one side and a thin shim on the other, that will tend to shift the crown wheel either away from or towards the pinion gear, and that sets up your backlash. The cool thing about the F-Series solid diff head is that it uses these screw adjusters similar to the T-Series. So they fit in each side, and you basically screw one in and screw the other out, and that tends to push on the side bearing cup, and it'll shift the diff left or right. What that'll do is that will either push the crown wheel into or away from the pinion gear and set up your backlash, but what it allows for is a much more user-friendly way of setting up the backlash of the diff. Advantages of this diff head is that, one, it's LSD. The Torsen diffs unfortunately only lock up when the wheel with no traction, it senses one wheel has no traction and locks, and that's only under acceleration. So there's no facility for limited slip under deceleration, and you can't set up a preload to effectively tell the diff when you want it to lock up. The cool thing about it is that you can fit either a Cusco TRD or Cars LSD diff head to it. So what I'm going to be doing is starting off with this diff head, seeing how it goes, seeing how it performs, and then once I save up a little bit more money in the future, I'll most probably look at changing it out with a clutch pack type LSD head. Alright, so here I just wanted to show you a couple of the comparisons between the standard K70 diff axle and the F-Series diff axle. So right out of the gate you can see the difference in size between the two axles. The K70 diff axle has this step down to the splines, which is quite small and is often prone to twisting or shearing or actually snapping the axle when there's a lot of power put through it. The F-Series axle is a lot larger and there's less of a step down to the splines, and the spline portion actually has a lot more metal to it. So a quick comparison and measurement between the two. The K70 axle is approximately 22 millimeters, whereas the F-Series is closer to 28 millimeters. So this should be a good size axle for the amount of power that I want to put through it, and it's also future proof, so if I want to add a supercharger or a turbo to the 4H in the future, this axle will be fine in handling the power. Cool. Well, that's it. So housing stripped down, axles removed, diff heads out, and the last link arms are removed. So plan from here will be to give it a good clean up, and then I'll come up with a way with mounting it in a jig, which will basically mount it in a fixed position, and I'll probably look to have a couple of arms that pick up each mount point and the panhard rod mounting point, so I can reference everything and mark it, and then when the F-Series diff housing is ready to put into the jig, I'll mount that all up, and then I can transfer these mounts over. So probably a crucial step will be to retain as much of the metal on the actual mounts as possible, so it doesn't change the geometry too much. And if I can't do that, then I might have to look at making some reproduced mounts through a couple of friends of mine. So yeah, thanks for watching this episode, and we'll keep you updated on the next one. Cheers.